I stand in my parents' kitchen on Christmas Eve, my hands trembling as I arrange rosemary sprigs around the perfectly roasted turkey. The silver serving tray catches the chandelier light, reflecting my flushed face back at me. My mother's voice carries from the dining room, honey sweet, as she introduces my younger sister to someone important. This is our Melissa, the family's pride and joy. She's handling public relations for Bloomfield Industries now. Evelyn Hale announces, her tone brimming with maternal adoration. Senior position, you know. Only 29, and already making waves in corporate America. The guests murmur appreciatively. I recognize the voice of Senator Williams, among them another Christmas Eve surrounded by Connecticut's elite while I slave away in the kitchen. And your other daughter? Someone asks. A brief pause. Christine is around somewhere, my mother says dismissively. She's quite handy in the kitchen. My stomach knots. 15 years building Aurora events from nothing to a multi-million-dollar luxury event company, and to my mother, I'm still just the helpful daughter who can be counted on to prepare the family meals. The turkey platter grows heavier in my hands. I straighten my shoulders and push through the swinging door into the dining room. The conversation halts as I enter, 12 pairs of eyes turning toward me, or rather, toward the masterpiece I've spent 8 hours preparing. Here she is now, my mother says, her smile tight. As I place the turkey at the center of the table, Waterford crystal, Wedgwood china, sterling silver flatware, all gleaming under the antique chandelier, she adds with a brittle laugh, at least Christine is useful for something. The room tilts slightly. My cheeks burn as Senator Williams's wife offers a sympathetic smile. I'm 33 years old, responsible for coordinating presidential fundraisers and celebrity weddings. Yet here I stand, serving others as though I were staff rather than family. The cranberry sauce is my grandmother's recipe, I manage to say, my voice steadier than I feel. My mother waves her hand dismissively. Christine always did have a knack for following instructions. I retreat to the kitchen, leaning against the marble counter. After 15 years, I'm still just the kitchen help. The realization sits in my chest like a stone. 15 years, I whisper to myself, disbelieving. And nothing has changed. I remember my first Christmas dinner for the family, 18 years old, desperately trying to please after my acceptance to culinary school instead of the Ivy League path my parents had mapped out. While Melissa unwrapped cashmere sweaters and diamond earrings, I stood in this same kitchen, terrified of disappointing them with my cooking. Just yesterday, Elizabeth had praised my business acumen after negotiating the Horizon Resorts contract, a $2.5 million deal that would elevate Aurora events to national recognition. You're a strategic genius, Christine, she'd said, her eyes shining with genuine admiration. They never saw you coming. The kitchen door swings open, and my mother appears, her silver-streaked hair perfectly coiffed, her crimson dress tailored to hide the effects of time. The senator is waiting for dessert, she says, checking her pearl watch. What's taking so long? I look at the lineup of pies and trifles I'd prepared before dawn. Something shifts inside me, a small, quiet rebellion. I need a moment, I say, removing my apron. Evelyn's eyes narrow. Don't be dramatic, Christine. This is what you're good at. My father appears in the doorway behind her, his tall frame slightly stooped now, his expression uncomfortable but silent. Richard Hale, once a formidable businessman, now retired and unwilling to contradict his wife of 38 years. Is there a problem? He asks, voice low. Christine is having one of her moments, my mother says. I'm not having a moment, I reply quietly. I'm recognizing a pattern. My father shifts uneasily. Outside the kitchen window, snowflakes drift down onto the manicured landscape of their Connecticut estate. The same estate purchased with money from the business my father sold, the business he never thought to share with me despite my degree in business administration. My mother gestures impatiently toward the desserts. The Hendersons and the Williamsons are waiting. Do you have any idea how important tonight is for your sister's connections? The implication hangs in the air between us. My success doesn't matter. My connections don't count. Only Melissa's matter. I'll bring them out, I say, picking up the first tray. My mother nods curtly and leaves. My father lingers a moment longer, opens his mouth as if to speak, then follows her without saying a word. In the dining room, I serve each guest personally, smiling professionally, the same smile I use at events where billionaires treat me with more respect than my own family does. Melissa holds court at the far end of the table, her blonde hair catching the light, her laughter musical as she entertains Senator Williams with some anecdote about her latest PR triumph. My phone vibrates in my pocket just as I serve the last slice of chocolate truffle tart. I check it discreetly. Elizabeth, emergency at the office. Horizon contract issue. Need you as soon as possible. I read the message twice. Elizabeth knows there's no emergency. This is our prearranged signal, her offering me an escape route from family obligations that become too much. I face a choice: maintain the peace or assert my dignity. The faces around the table blur slightly as I make my decision. I have to go, I announce, removing the serving napkin from my arm. Business emergency. My mother's expression hardens. On Christmas Eve? Surely whatever it is can wait until tomorrow. It's the Horizon contract, I say, and for the first time tonight, I see a flicker of recognition in her eyes. She's heard of Horizon Resorts, even if she pretends not to follow my career. Christine runs some sort of catering business. She explains to Senator Williams, her voice dripping with condescension. Event planning, actually, I corrected her. We're coordinating Horizon's national brand relaunch. The senator raises his eyebrows, impressed. The Horizon deal? That's a major contract. My mother's smile freezes. Melissa's eyes darted between us, suddenly alert. I really must go, I say, gathering my coat and purse from the kitchen. Outside, Elizabeth's car idles in the circular driveway, snow gathering on its windshield. Her concerned eyes meet mine as I slide into the passenger seat. Same as last year? She asks gently. Worse, I reply. They know exactly what I do for a living. They just choose not to acknowledge it. Collar. As the car pulls away, I watch the warm glow of the family home recede in the side mirror. The realization crystallizes within me, turning from hurt to resolution. This is the last holiday I will spend as their servant, I say, my voice quiet but firm. Elizabeth nods, her hands steady on the wheel as we leave Connecticut behind, heading back toward my real life, the one I built without their approval or acknowledgement. I push open the heavy oak doors of the Willowbrook Country Club on a cold Wednesday afternoon. The scent of lemon polish and old money assaults my senses. 3 days after I fled my parents' Christmas dinner, Elizabeth convinced me to retrieve the business portfolio I'd accidentally left in my father's study during a rare visit last month. They'll be at the club board meeting, she assured me. In and out, no confrontation. The main hall stretches before me, all polished marble and ancestral portraits. A familiar laugh echoes from the small reading room to my left, Melissa's laugh, musical and practiced. I freeze mid-step. The contract signing is next week, so your timing couldn't be better. It's my mother's voice, hushed but clear. Christine has no idea we know about the Horizon deal. My heart hammers against my ribs. I edge closer to the partially open door. The Williamsons are on the Horizon board, Melissa says. Their daughter works in legal. She confirmed it's worth over $2 million. My father clears his throat. Keep your voice down, Melissa. No one's here on a Wednesday afternoon, Dad, Melissa replies. Besides, who would care about Christine's little catering business? Event planning, my mother corrects her, which is why this Horizon situation is becoming problematic. The Williamsons mentioned Christine by name at the Christmas party. Before we could redirect the conversation, I press my back against the wall, my breath shallow. I've been calling her vendors for months, Melissa continues, dropping hints about financial instability. Most were receptive, especially after I mentioned my PR expertise. The floor seems to tilt beneath me. Months. She's been doing this for months. A rustle of papers. This file has everything. Financial reports, client list, vendor relationships. Christine's surprisingly good at business for someone who couldn't get into Yale. My father's voice holds reluctant admiration. Good enough to embarrass this family if she continues to succeed. My mother adds sharply, what happens when the Thompsons discover our daughter, the one who cooks Christmas dinner, is making more than their son at Goldman Sachs? I've planted seeds with 3 Horizon executives, Melissa says, just enough concern about Aurora's capacity to handle their national relaunch. One mentioned they might need to revisit certain aspects of the proposal. Melissa says, the wall feels cool against my suddenly burning skin. My fingers curl into fists. Is that wise? My father asks, if she traces it back to us. Richard, please. My mother's voice drips with contempt. Christine still craves our approval too much to see what's in front of her face. She spent 15 years thinking we simply don't understand her business. The girl makes dessert for senators while serving them herself. The truth crystallizes in my mind with terrible clarity. They know. They've always known. The dismissals, the belittling comments, the kitchen servitude, none of it was ignorance. It was a strategy. I slip away from the door before they emerge, ducking into an alcove behind a massive fern. My mind races, reassembling 15 years of history like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. Melissa's occasional visits to my office always around major contract announcements. Her questions about vendors, timelines, financial arrangements. The strange pattern of clients backing out after family gatherings. The health inspector who arrived hours before the governor's fundraiser last spring, citing an anonymous tip. None of it was coincidence. My executive suite at Aurora transforms in my memory from professional achievement to strategic target. Each family interaction was categorized from disappointing to dangerous. Every lost contract recontextualized, from bad luck to calculated sabotage. For 15 years, I've been fighting with one hand tied behind my back, believing my greatest vulnerability was my own insecurity. The truth feels like ice water in my veins. My family hasn't been neglecting my success. They've been actively working to destroy it. And now they're targeting Horizon Resorts. The contract that would elevate Aurora events from regional success to national prominence. The deal I've worked 18 months to secure. My phone vibrates with a text from Elizabeth. Everything okay? I stare at the screen, a strange calm settling over me. The hurt daughter in me wants to burst into the reading room, confront them with their betrayal. But the CEO in me recognizes a more significant truth. They wouldn't be doing this if they weren't terrified of my success. I sent a quick reply. Meet me at the office. Emergency strategy meeting. 20 minutes later, I stride into Aurora's conference room where Elizabeth waits, concern etched across her face. The wall-to-wall windows showcase the Manhattan skyline, the empire I've built without their approval or acknowledgement. They know everything. I tell her, my voice steadier than I feel. Melissa has been sabotaging Aurora for years, with my parents' full knowledge and support. Elizabeth's expression doesn't register surprise. She opens her laptop and pulls up a folder labeled Family Incidents. I've been documenting patterns for months. She confesses. Strange coincidences that always seem to happen after your family gatherings. Clients who suddenly had concerns about Aurora's capabilities. She confesses. She turns the screen toward me. The sabotage always intensifies when we're close to a major breakthrough. Like Horizon. Why didn't you tell me? I ask. Not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. Would you have believed me? Elizabeth's eyes are kind. You needed to see it yourself. My office door opens, and James Wilson enters without knocking. At 61, my CFO carries the financial reports like weapons. I ran the numbers you asked for, he says to Elizabeth, then notices my expression. You told her? She found out herself, Elizabeth replies. James places a spreadsheet before me. Client cancellations and vendor issues, mapped against your family interactions. The correlation is statistically significant. The graph shows clear spikes of business disruptions following holidays, family birthdays, and country club events. My stomach twists as I remember the Valentine's Day gala where my mother introduced Melissa to the Sandersons, who withdrew from contract negotiations the following week. Why? I whisper, more to myself than to them. What could possibly make them do this? Elizabeth and James exchange glances. Your mother needs Melissa to be the successful daughter. Elizabeth says gently, and your father's retirement investments haven't performed as expected. The country club membership alone costs. That's not an excuse. I interrupt, surprising myself with the hard edge in my voice. No, James agrees. It's not. But understanding their motivation helps us anticipate their next move. He points to the Horizon contract timeline. They're desperate. Their lifestyle is at risk. And your success threatens Melissa's standing in their social circles. The bigger Aurora gets, the smaller her PR achievements look. I stand and walk to the window, staring at the city stretching before me. Behind me, Elizabeth and James wait silently, not my family by blood, but allies who respect what I've built. Document everything, I say finally. Every canceled contract, every anonymous complaint, every suspicious timing. We're not just defending the Horizon deal now. I turn back to face them, something new hardening within me. We're protecting Aurora Events from the people who should have been protecting me. The next day, I stand in Aurora Events' kitchen, fingers trembling slightly as I hold the health inspector's report. 3 different colored post-it notes mark sections I've read a dozen times already. The signature on the complaint form might as well be written in neon lights. I found it. I tell Elizabeth, who hovers near the industrial refrigerator. The inspector's report mentions who called them. A concerned family member worried about food handling standards before the Anderson wedding. Elizabeth's eyebrows lift. A family member? You think? I know. The paper crinkles as my grip tightens. Look at the timing. Every major inspection, every anonymous complaint, they all happen right after I mention our biggest clients at family gatherings. Elizabeth pulls out a manila folder from her desk drawer. I've been keeping track, for months now. My chest tightens as she spreads documents across the stainless steel prep table. Inspection dates, family dinner dates, client complaints that materialized from nowhere. And most damning of all, a transcript of Melissa's voice. You recorded her? I ask, scanning the typed conversation. Last month at the vendor showcase. She approached Martinelli's Linens asking about our order volume, claiming she worked with Aurora Events. Elizabeth's voice hardens. She's been systematically contacting our suppliers, Christine. I press my palm against the cool metal table, steadying myself. For 15 years I've built this company, brick by brick, contract by contract. And all the while my own sister has been laying explosives at the foundation. The Horizon contract signing is next week, I say, finally naming our shared fear. They'll try to stop it, Elizabeth confirms, but now we have proof. Then I think it's time for lunch with my sister. I reach for my phone, a strange calm settling over me. Someplace public. The next day, I arrived at Bellini's 20 minutes early. The maitre d' recognizes me immediately. Aurora Events handled his daughter's wedding last spring. Your usual table, Miss Hale? The one with the garden view? Actually, Anthony, I'd prefer something more central today, near the windows facing Main Street. His eyebrows lift slightly, but he nods. Of course. I arrange my evidence neatly beside my water glass. The health inspector's report, the pattern of complaints, the vendor conversation transcripts. A public execution requires proper staging. Melissa sweeps in at 12:15, 5 minutes late as always. Her cream-colored suit matches her pearl earrings, her blonde hair swept into an immaculate chignon, the perfect PR executive image. She air kisses my cheek before sliding into her seat. You look tired, Christine, she observes, unfolding her napkin. Those big events must be so exhausting. They are, I smile thinly, especially when someone calls health inspectors to our kitchen the day before. Her fingers pause on the menu, a slight widening of her eyes almost imperceptible before she recovers. What are you talking about? I found the inspector's report. I slide the document toward her. They mentioned who called them. It was you. The bustling restaurant continues around us, waiters gliding between tables, wine glasses clinking, business people laughing. But at our table, silence hangs heavy. You're being ridiculous, Melissa says finally, pushing the paper away without looking at it. Am I? I place another document before her. Here's a pattern of anonymous complaints, all filed within 48 hours of family gatherings where I mentioned upcoming events. Her cheeks flush slightly. I don't have time for this. Make time. My voice remains controlled, measured. I also have recordings of you contacting our vendors, pretending to work for Aurora Events. Melissa's eyes dart around the restaurant, noting the nearby diners who might overhear. Her perfectly manicured hand reaches for her water glass. Mother's here, she says suddenly, relief washing over her face. Evelyn Hale approaches our table, elegant in a tailored burgundy dress. Her eyes take in the scattered papers, her smile faltering. What's all this? She asks, sitting beside Melissa. Evidence, I replied calmly, of systematic sabotage against my company. Evelyn's face hardens. That's a serious accusation, Christine. Backed by serious proof. I turned the health inspector's report toward her. The inspector confirmed it was Melissa who called them, claiming food safety concerns. We were concerned about your standards, Evelyn says, her voice dropping to a whisper. After hearing about that unfortunate food poisoning incident at the M sizes. There was no food poisoning incident, I lean forward. That was a rumor Melissa started. We've never had a single case of food poisoning at any Aurora event. A waiter approaches. Evelyn waves him away with practiced charm before turning back to me, her voice honey-sweet but eyes flint-hard. You've always been so dramatic, Christine. We're simply looking out for the family reputation. You weren't concerned, I counter, my voice steady despite the anger burning through my veins. You were sabotaging my business. Melissa shifts uncomfortably as a couple at the next table glances our way. For the first time in our shared history, she's the one explaining while I control the conversation. I was protecting our family name. Melissa hisses, leaning forward. Your little catering business reflects on all of us, and after what I heard about your sanitation. What you fabricated about my sanitation, I corrected her. Aurora Events has perfect health scores, higher than any other event company in the state. Evelyn places a restraining hand on Melissa's arm. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. The word comes out sharper than I intended. We've had 33 years of privacy, now we're doing public. A murmur from nearby diners confirms what I already know: we have an audience. For once, my family can't twist the narrative behind closed doors. Melissa's facade cracks slightly. Fine. I called the health inspector. I was concerned after what I heard from the Hendersons. The Hendersons who interviewed with your PR firm last month? I push a printout of their connection toward her. The same Hendersons who mysteriously canceled their contract with Aurora a week later? Evelyn's grip on her purse tightens. I can almost see her calculating the social cost of this confrontation. What do you want, Christine? She asks finally. I want you to stop interfering with my business. Both of you. I look directly at Melissa. No more calls to vendors. No more rumors to clients. No more health inspectors. Melissa's jaw tightens. And if we don't? Then, the next conversation happens with lawyers present. I reply, gathering my evidence, and includes the district attorney's office. I stand, dropping enough cash on the table to cover all 3 lunches. I've worked too hard for too long to let anyone, even family, destroy what I've built. Outside, Elizabeth waits in the company car, her encouraging smile visible through the window. My phone buzzes as I approach. James, I answered, sliding into the passenger seat. Contract review meeting with Horizon just wrapped. Our CFO reports. Everything's proceeding as planned. Not a single question about our operational standards. Elizabeth pulls away from the curb as relief washes through me. Did you tell them? She asks, nodding toward the restaurant. Everything. I confirm, watching my mother and sister through the window, their heads bent together in urgent conversation. They know I know. The car turns the corner just as Anthony, the restaurant's owner, hurries out to catch me. Elizabeth slows as he approaches my window. Miss Hale, he calls. I just wanted to say we're hosting the Chamber of Commerce dinner next month. Would Aurora Events be available to handle it? The invitation extended in full view of the restaurant windows where my mother and sister still sit feels like more than a business opportunity. It's validation. We'd be honored, I reply, feeling the first genuine smile of the day spread across my face. As Elizabeth drives toward the office, I watch the restaurant recede in the side mirror. For the first time since founding Aurora Events, I feel the company's strength against my family's manipulation. The evidence is undeniable. The confrontation is complete, and for once, I'm not the one explaining. On Monday next week, I stand at the conference room window, watching rain streak down the glass. 3 days have passed since I confronted Melissa at Vincenzo's, but the satisfaction has faded, replaced by cold determination. The Aurora Events conference room has been transformed into a command center, documents spread across the 12-foot mahogany table. They'll target the Horizon contract next. I say, not turning from the window. It's too high profile, too valuable to ignore. Elizabeth nods, adding another folder to our growing arsenal. I've been documenting their interference patterns for months. The sabotage attempts intensify right before major contracts. Interested. I run my finger along a timeline we've created: 15 years of Aurora Events history alongside my family's social calendar. Red flags mark every instance where a potential client suddenly backed out, a vendor inexplicably raised prices, or a health inspector appeared without warning. Look at the pattern, James says, his gray hair catching the light as he leans forward. Our CFO's finance background brings analytical precision to what began as gut instinct. Every major setback corresponds with either a family gathering or one of Melissa's PR events. I settle into the leather chair at the head of the table, no longer the daughter seeking approval but a CEO defending her company. The conference room walls display framed photos of our most successful events, presidential fundraisers, celebrity weddings, corporate rebrands. 15 years of building something meaningful despite systematic undermining. What vulnerabilities does Aurora have that they might exploit? I ask, tapping my pen against the polished wood. Elizabeth slides a spreadsheet across the table. I've analyzed our vendor relationships, client satisfaction metrics, and financial stability indicators. We're solid, but there are pressure points. I study the document, noting areas where targeted interference could cause maximum damage. The Horizon contract requires flawless execution across 5 cities simultaneously. If they can create doubt about our capacity. James adjusts his glasses. I've prepared complete financial transparency documentation, 15 years of perfect audits, tax compliance, and steady growth metrics. If they attack our financial stability, we're ready. The rain intensifies outside, a fitting backdrop to our methodical planning. I feel none of the emotional satisfaction from the restaurant confrontation, only calm, strategic focus. I need eyes and ears at the country club. I say, Mom never misses lunch with the hospital board wives. They'll discuss strategy there. Elizabeth nods. Marcus from catering has a cousin who works in the service staff. He's been reporting back. Your mother's been asking pointed questions about Horizon's VP of marketing. I make a note in my leather-bound planner. James, can you reach out discreetly to your contact at First National? If they're planning to question our financial stability, I want advance warning. Already done, he replies, sliding a folder across the table. I've also prepared contingency financing if they try to pressure our current lenders. The methodical approach feels right, no emotional outbursts. Just calculated defense measures built on years of business acumen. I've spent too long reacting to their sabotage. Now I'm anticipating it. We should consider, I begin. But Elizabeth's phone interrupts with a text alert. Her expression tightens as she reads the message. Christine, they've just hired Victoria Foster as a family PR consultant. The name hits like ice water. Victoria Foster, the PR executive who sued Aurora 3 years ago when we refused to hire her daughter as an event coordinator. The lawsuit was dismissed, but not before she attempted to poison several client relationships with whisper campaigns about our hiring practices. They know, I say quietly. They know exactly where to hit us. James frowns. Foster still has connections at Vanity Fair and the Journal. And she's been gunning for revenge since the lawsuit, Elizabeth adds. This isn't just about the contract anymore. They're targeting your professional reputation. I feel a momentary spike of anxiety before strategic clarity returns. I've underestimated them. They're not just desperate, they're dangerous. And they know our company's vulnerabilities better than I realized. They're smarter than I gave them credit for, I say, turning back to the window. The rain has stopped, leaving glistening streets below. Prepare media response templates for every possible accusation. We need to be ready to counter anything Foster might plant. I catch my reflection in the glass, the set of my jaw, the focused eyes. I barely recognize myself. There's no trace of the kitchen helper seeking approval, only a CEO protecting what she's built. They want a war, I say. Let's make sure we win it. That evening, I stared at the documents spread across the conference room table. James leans forward, his silver-rimmed glasses reflecting the fluorescent light as he adds another spreadsheet to the pile. The numbers tell a story of success and stability, 15 years of building Aurora events into a powerhouse that even my family couldn't ignore. These financial transparency reports should satisfy any concerns Horizon might have, James says, his deep voice steady as he gestures to the impeccably organized statements. I've included vendor payment histories showing we've never missed a deadline. Elizabeth nods, her auburn hair catching the light as she places a leather portfolio beside his documents. And I've collected testimonials from every major client over the past 3 years. The Vanderbilts were particularly effusive about last summer's charity gala. Good. I tap my fingertips against the polished mahogany. Let's strengthen the contract language too. I want ironclad protections against third-party interference. For days, we've worked methodically, anticipating every possible angle of attack. This isn't about the satisfaction I felt confronting Melissa at the restaurant. This is about protecting something bigger, my company, my legacy, my chosen family. We're not preparing for another skirmish, I tell them, my voice calmer than I feel. We're preparing for war. Elizabeth pulls her tablet closer, scrolling through her notes. I spoke with Danielle at Horizon this morning. She mentioned that your mother called their office yesterday. My stomach tightens. What did she want? She didn't say. Elizabeth's expression remains carefully neutral, but I catch the slight tension in her shoulders. But Danielle thought it odd that Mrs. Hale was asking about the project management team assignments, specifically who would be handling the contract execution. I freeze. Did she ask about you specifically? Elizabeth's eyes meet mine. By name. The conference room suddenly feels colder. One thing to come after me and my company, but Elizabeth? The thought of my family targeting her makes my blood run hot. They're researching everyone close to me. I realize aloud, not just the business, they're looking for personal vulnerabilities. James removes his glasses, polishing them with a handkerchief. That's a concerning escalation. It's smart, I admit, hating the grudging respect I feel for their strategy. Target the people I trust, and they weaken my defense. I turn to Elizabeth, whose calm professionalism can't completely mask her concern. We need to protect you too. I can handle myself, she says with quiet dignity, but I see the question in her eyes. How far will my family go? Christine? Elizabeth prompts, reading my expression with the ease of long partnership. I need you to be careful. I say finally, document everything. No meetings alone with anyone from my family. Forward any unusual inquiries directly to me. She studies me for a moment, then nods. There's something you're not telling me. There's a lot I'm not telling you, I admit, because I'm not entirely sure what they're capable of anymore. Her expression softens. I've worked with you for 10 years. Whatever they try, we'll handle it together. James clears his throat. I've adjusted the financial presentations to address any potential questions about Elizabeth's role in the company. Her track record speaks for itself. I glance between them, my chosen family, the people who've believed in me when blood relations wouldn't. The stakes have suddenly grown beyond business success or professional vindication. Now I'm fighting to protect them too. By midnight, we've rebuilt our strategy. Additional documentation about Elizabeth's credentials. Character references from industry leaders. Security protocols for our communications. Each element is carefully constructed to shield not just Aurora events, but the people who make it what it island. James collects his jacket from the back of his chair. We're as ready as we can be, he says, his voice gruff with fatigue. The Horizon meeting is on Thursday. Elizabeth stands beside me at the window, gazing out at the Manhattan skyline. The city lights reflect in her eyes as she says with quiet certainty, they won't know what hit them. I feel a strange calm settle over me as I survey our preparations. No longer the anxious daughter seeking approval, but the CEO protecting what she's built. The transformation feels complete from family servant to strategic defender. This week will bring the confrontation I've been preparing for since that Christmas Eve in my mother's kitchen. But tonight, for the first time, I'm not afraid of what my family might do. I'm ready for them. Next morning at the office, I stare at my phone as the Horizon executive's voicemail finishes. My hand trembles when I set it down on my desk. Emergency board meeting tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp. We need to discuss some concerns that have been raised about Aurora events. The carefully measured pause in his voice tells me everything. My family has made their move. Elizabeth appears in my doorway, face drawn with worry. Christine, what happened? They went straight to Horizon. I keep my voice level despite the inferno raging inside. They didn't just spread rumors this time. They called the CEO directly. James wheels his chair from his adjacent office, financial reports clutched in his hands. He's been working past midnight for 3 days straight, preparing our defensive position. The deep circles under his eyes match my own. How bad? He asks. Emergency board meeting tomorrow morning. Complete financial review. Elizabeth sinks into the chair across from my desk. They timed it perfectly, 1 day before the contract signing. I nod, bile rising in my throat. After 15 years building Aurora events, my family chooses now to deliver their killing blow. The Horizon contract represents everything we've worked toward: national recognition, expansion into 5 new markets, validation of our business model. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from a longtime vendor. Christine? Melissa called asking about your payment history. Said she was working with your accountant. Seemed fishy. Thought you should know. I hold up the phone to show Elizabeth and James. They're methodical, going after our vendor relationships too. James leans forward, his voice a low growl. They're contacting everyone. I just got off with Hargrove Linens. Victoria Foster called them, claiming to be conducting a standard business ethics review for Horizon. Elizabeth's eyes widened. My stomach knots tighter. My mother never does anything halfway. The PR lawsuit had been frivolous. My desk phone lights up. 3 incoming messages within the past 10 minutes, all from different Horizon board members. They've orchestrated a full-scale attack. I say, scrolling through the voicemail notifications. Look at the timestamp on these calls, all within minutes of each other. Elizabeth's fingers fly across her tablet, pulling up our emergency response protocol. Your father called Horizon's CEO directly. Claimed to be concerned about your company's stability given some troubling financial indicators. What financial indicators? James demands, the accountant in him genuinely offended. Our books are immaculate. I lean back in my chair, a strange calm replacing my initial panic. This isn't just petty family sabotage anymore. This is a declaration of war. He's referencing the Westbrook contract cancellation from last month. I say, the pieces clicking into place. Remember how suddenly they pulled out? No explanation? Full deposit forfeited? James nods slowly. Your father has connections there. And my mother plays bridge with Mrs. Westbrook every Tuesday, I add. They sacrificed a $50,000 deposit just to create a troubling financial indicator. The sheer calculation takes my breath away. This isn't impulse. This is strategic demolition, planned for maximum impact. They're positioning themselves as concerned citizens. Elizabeth says, scrolling through her tablet. Look at this email thread. Melissa reached out to Patricia Henderson, claiming she's worried about your decision-making capabilities lately. Patricia Henderson sits on Horizon's advisory board. James stands abruptly. I'm calling Hagen Associates right now. We need their third-party financial audit ready for tomorrow. Already done, Elizabeth says, sliding a folder across my desk. Complete 5-year financial history, profitability metrics, client satisfaction ratings, vendor payment schedules, certified copies, triplicate sets. I open the folder, pages of financial health staring back at me. Aurora Events isn't just stable, we're thriving. Double-digit growth each year for 5 consecutive years. Outstanding credit rating. 0 complaints filed with any regulatory agency. The staff is mobilized too. Elizabeth continues. Every department head has contacted their key relationships. The strategy we planned in Chapter 4 and 5 is fully activated. My phone buzzes again. Not another Horizon executive, but the caterer from my sister's wedding 3 years ago. Christine, your mother just called asking about our experience with Aurora. Said she was doing reference checks? Told her you're the best in the business. Hope that's what you wanted. I show the message to Elizabeth, who smiles grimly. They're calling our allies too. But they don't realize we've spent years building genuine relationships while they were playing social games. The conference phone lights up, and James answers on speaker. It's Sarah Martinez, Horizon's procurement director. Christine, I'm calling as a courtesy. We've received some concerning communications about Aurora Events. The board has called an emergency meeting tomorrow at 8. You'll need to present. I understand, I reply, voice steadier than I feel. We'll be prepared. This isn't standard procedure, Sarah adds, her voice lowering. Someone's pulling strings, hard. After she hangs up, the 3 of us sit in momentary silence, the magnitude of tomorrow's battle sinking in. We need to stay here tonight, I say finally. Review everything, prepare the presentation. James nods, already reopening his laptop. I'll have the complete financial analysis ready in 2 hours. I've compiled testimonials from every major client for the past 3 years, Elizabeth says, and documented evidence of each family sabotage attempt. I watch my chosen family mobilize around me, their competence a stark contrast to the toxic manipulation of my biological relatives. The Horizon contract isn't just business anymore, it's vindication of everything I've built despite my family's interference. Tomorrow morning we will show Horizon what real business integrity looks like, Elizabeth says, squeezing my shoulder. James looks up from his computer, confidence replacing the fatigue in his eyes. Our numbers tell the real story, Christine. They can spread all the rumors they want, but facts don't lie. I open my presentation software and begin organizing our defense. Later that night, the timer on my desk, a reminder of where I started, shows 10:42 p.m. Tomorrow's presentation is at 8 a.m. less than 10 hours to prepare for the fight of my professional life. As I work through the night, one thought sustains me. After tomorrow, either Aurora Events will secure its future, or my family will succeed in destroying everything I've built. There is no middle ground left. Next morning, I walk into Horizon's gleaming boardroom, the morning sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. My heartbeat steadies with each step, despite the stakes. Everything I've built over 15 years balances on what happens in the next hour. The room falls silent as I enter. 20 executives in tailored suits sit around a massive mahogany table, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. My gaze locks with Melissa's across the room. Her usual composed smile falters for a split second before returning. Behind her, my mother sits ramrod straight in a burgundy dress that probably cost more than some of my staff's monthly salaries. My father avoids my eyes completely, studying his hands as if they contain answers to questions no one has asked. Victoria Foster stands at the front of the room beside a projection screen, her silver-streaked blonde hair pulled into an immaculate chignon. I recognized her immediately, the PR executive who sued Aurora 3 years ago, after we refused to compromise our ethics for one of her celebrity clients. Miss Hale. Gregory Townsend, Horizon's CEO, gestures to an empty seat. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. We have some concerns we need to address before proceeding with our contract. I nod, placing my leather portfolio on the table. Elizabeth sits silently beside me, her tablet ready. James takes the seat on my other side, his presence steady and reassuring. Victoria taps her tablet, and the screen behind her illuminates with Aurora's financial records, or rather, a carefully edited version of them. After conducting a thorough analysis, Victoria begins, her voice carrying the practiced authority of someone who believes her own fabrications. We've identified several concerning patterns regarding Aurora Events' stability and leadership. She clicks to the next slide, showing a graph with selective downward trends. As you can see, client retention has fluctuated significantly over the past 3 years. She continues. Additionally, there have been concerning reports about inconsistent management practices. My mother leans forward, her voice honey-sweet with practiced concern. We felt it was our responsibility to bring these issues to light. We only want what's best for everyone involved. The elegant deception might have worked if I were still the daughter seeking approval in their kitchen. But I'm not that woman anymore. Mr. Townsend, I say, opening my portfolio with steady hands. Before we continue, I'd like to address these claims with complete transparency. I slide a USB drive toward their technical director. This contains Aurora's complete financial records for the past 5 years, certified by 2 independent accounting firms. James speaks up, his voice carrying the weight of 30 years in financial management. If I may, I've prepared a comprehensive analysis that tells quite a different story. He distributes folders to each board member. You'll notice our client retention rate is actually 87% over 5 years, well above the industry average of 62%. Victoria attempts to interject, but Townsend raises his hand, already scanning the documents with narrowed eyes. There's something else you should know. I continue, my voice level despite the fury burning in my chest. What you're witnessing is not business concern but personal sabotage. I slide another folder toward Townsend. This contains documented evidence of systematic interference with Aurora's operations, dating back 3 years. Elizabeth steps forward, activating her tablet display on the main screen. Permission to present evidence, Mr. Townsend? At his nod, she pulls up a timeline, meticulously documenting every instance of interference. Anonymous complaints to health inspectors, calls to vendors expressing concerns about Aurora, even recordings of Melissa actively discouraging potential clients. As Aurora's chief operations officer for 10 years, Elizabeth says, her voice steady, I've observed a pattern. Every major contract negotiation has been preceded by some form of interference. This Horizon contract has triggered the most aggressive response yet. The room grows uncomfortably quiet as board members review the evidence. My sister shifts in her seat, her knuckles white around her water glass. That's preposterous. My mother interjects, her voice slightly higher than normal. We've only expressed legitimate concerns about Christine's business practices. Then perhaps you can explain this, James says, directing attention to an email displayed on screen 1 showing Melissa contacting Victoria Foster 3 weeks ago, specifically mentioning the Horizon contract. Martin Reynolds, Horizon's chief legal officer, leans forward. Miss Foster, were you aware of the personal relationship between the Hales when you agreed to this presentation? Victoria's composure slips for just a moment. I was approached as a professional consultant regarding legitimate business concerns. Legitimate concerns, I repeat, opening another file. Like the health inspector sent to our kitchen the day before the Williams-Thompson wedding? The one who mentioned receiving an anonymous call from a concerned family member? I pass around copies of the inspector's report, which specifically notes the caller identified themselves as family of the owner. Or perhaps the calls to 3 of our regular vendors suggesting Aurora was facing financial difficulties? I continue, placing phone records on the table. Calls traced back to your home phone, Dad. My father finally looks up, his expression a mixture of shame and defiance. Your business wasn't built on solid foundations, Christine. We were trying to protect you from inevitable failure. Protect me? The words escape before I can stop them. By actively working to destroy everything I've built? Townsend clears his throat, studying the documentation with increasing concern. This appears to be personal sabotage disguised as business counsel. He turns to Victoria. Miss Foster, your presentation deliberately misrepresented Aurora's financial standing. Victoria begins a defense, but Townsend cuts her off with a raised hand. More disturbingly, he continues, these actions appear coordinated specifically to interfere with our contract negotiations. A board member I recognize as Sarah Winters, Horizon's VP of Operations, speaks up. I received a call last week expressing concerns about Aurora's ability to handle our national relaunch. The caller identified herself as Melissa Hale. She never mentioned being related to Christine. Melissa's perfect composure finally cracks. I was simply sharing relevant information about a company I'm familiar with. You're not familiar with my company, I reply, years of restrained anger finally finding a voice. You've never set foot in our offices. You've never attended a single event we've produced. You've never acknowledged my success except to undermine it. I stand, addressing the board directly. Aurora Events has a 15-year track record of excellence. We've coordinated presidential fundraisers, managed disaster relief logistics, and built a reputation for absolute integrity. What you've witnessed today is the culmination of years of systematic interference from people who claim to be concerned while actively working against us. 3 additional executives enter the room, representatives from companies who have worked with Aurora for years. One by one, they testify to our reliability, our excellence, our integrity. I've personally witnessed Aurora Events handle million-dollar projects with flawless execution, says Thomas Richardson, CEO of Richardson Hotels. They're the only event company we trust with our international conferences. Melissa stands abruptly, her voice tight. This is an ambush. We came here out of genuine concern. No, you didn't. Townsend interrupts, studying the evidence before him. The documentation here clearly demonstrates a pattern of deliberate interference timed specifically to undermine Aurora's business opportunities. He turns to my family, his expression hardening. I want to be absolutely clear. Any further interference with Horizon's business relationships will result in legal action. Miss Foster, you may wish to consult your own counsel regarding your participation in this matter. Victoria gathers her materials quickly, avoiding eye contact with everyone as she exits the room. My mother rises, her perfect posture betrayed by a slight tremor in her hands. We were only trying to protect the family reputation. The family reputation? I repeat quietly. For 15 years, I've built a business with integrity, excellence, and transparency values that should enhance any family's reputation. The only damage to your reputation comes from your own actions today. Townsend stands, effectively ending the confrontation. Miss Hale, Christine, our board will need to deliberate briefly, but I believe we've seen everything we need to make our decision. Would you and your team mind stepping out? The next 30 minutes in the waiting area feel like hours. Elizabeth squeezes my hand. No matter what happens, you've already won. They can't touch you anymore. James nods, his expression one of quiet pride. The numbers never lie, and neither do we. When we're called back in, my family is noticeably absent. Townsend stands at the head of the table, his expression unreadable. After reviewing all the evidence, he begins. Horizon Resorts has unanimously decided to award the contract to Aurora Events. The relief is so profound I have to steady myself against the table. Furthermore, He continues, "We'd like to discuss expanding our relationship beyond the original proposal. We're interested in making Aurora our exclusive event partner for all properties worldwide." The victory washes over me in waves: vindication, relief, triumph. 15 years of work finally recognized, not just with a contract, but with the industry validation I never received at home. "We value partners with integrity," Townsend says, extending his hand. "The way you handled today's situation demonstrated exactly why Aurora is the right choice for Horizon." As we sign the expanded contract, now worth nearly $4 million, I feel the final pieces of my transformation lock into place. No longer the kitchen helps, no longer the dismissed daughter. I am Christine Hale, founder and CEO of Aurora Events, now officially recognized as an industry leader. Elizabeth embraces me as we exit the building. "You built this through integrity, not connections," she whispers. James nods, pride evident in his eyes. 15 years of doing things right just paid off. The street bustles around us, indifferent to the seismic shift that just occurred in my life. But I stand taller than I've ever stood, freed from the weight of seeking approval from people determined never to give it. "Let's go home," I say, meaning our office is the place where I've always been valued for exactly who I am. I stand on the stage of the Waldorf Astoria's Grand Ballroom, bathed in a warm spotlight as hundreds of industry professionals applaud. The crystal award in my hands catches the light, sending prisms dancing across the crowd. "Success requires both talent and boundaries," I say into the microphone, my voice steady and confident. The Aurora Foundation exists to support women entrepreneurs whose families don't recognize their vision. From my vantage point, I can see Elizabeth beaming from the front table, her silver-streaked hair elegantly styled, pride evident in her posture. James sits beside her, nodding his approval, the financial wizard who helped transform Aurora Events from a struggling startup to an industry leader. The business journals called the Horizon contract a turning point. They weren't wrong. 6 months of industry coverage following the boardroom showdown cemented Aurora's reputation as the premier luxury event planning company on the East Coast. My parents retreated from public events for weeks afterward, their social calendar suddenly empty as Connecticut society processed the revelations. When I step down from the stage, Elizabeth hands me a glass of champagne. "To boundaries," she whispers, clinking her glass against mine. "And to the family we choose," I reply. James joins us, his weathered face relaxed. 35% revenue growth in 6 months. The board approved the new offices this morning. "Miami and Denver," Elizabeth adds. "Chief Operations Officer has a nice ring to it." "Not as nice as a permanent CFO with profit sharing," I tell James, watching his eyes widen slightly. "Christine, you believed in Aurora when my own family didn't," I say. "You deserve to share in what we've built." The memory of last Christmas flashes through my mind, my trembling hands arranging rosemary sprigs, my mother's dismissive introduction. "I almost lost everything I built," I murmur. "But you didn't," Elizabeth says firmly. "You protected it instead." Later that evening, as guests mingle over dessert, I spot them near the entrance. My parents and Melissa, standing awkwardly in formal attire, holding embossed invitations. I'd sent them as a courtesy, never expecting they'd attend. I cross the room slowly, feeling none of the tightness in my chest their presence usually triggers. "Christine," my mother says, her voice unusually tentative. She looks older, the careful makeup not quite concealing the toll of diminished social standing. "Thank you for coming," I reply, professionally cordial. "There's a table reserved for you near the center." The silent auction ends at 10. My father shifts uncomfortably. "The Miami expansion, that's significant." I nod. The Horizon contract opened several doors. Melissa studies me with new eyes. "Your speech was impressive." "Thank you," I say, then excuse myself to greet the mayor. 6 months earlier, I'd hosted Aurora's holiday gathering in our Manhattan headquarters. Instead of slaving in my parents' kitchen, I laughed with 60 employees while caterers served a menu I'd designed. The contrast wasn't lost on me. No trembling hands, no knot in my stomach, just genuine connection with people who valued both my culinary creativity and business acumen. Elizabeth circulates through the ballroom now, discussing the Aurora Foundation with potential donors. "We've already helped 3 women launch successful businesses," she tells them. "Women whose families dismissed their vision, just like Christine's did. The program provides not just funding but mentorship. Last Tuesday, I spent 3 hours with Samantha, a brilliant event planner whose father insists she take a practical corporate job. Trust your instincts, I told her. And remember that respect isn't just earned through success, it's required through boundaries. James appears at my elbow. The Williams Group wants to discuss their Seattle launch. Shall I bring them over? Absolutely. As I turn to greet potential clients, I catch my mother watching from across the room. For a moment, our eyes meet. She nods slightly, a gesture falling somewhere between acknowledgement and surrender. Much later, 1 year after that devastating Christmas Eve, the transformation is complete. The woman who once stood in her mother's kitchen arranging turkey platters now hosts industry leaders at charity galas. The daughter dismissed as helpful in the kitchen now mentors the next generation of women entrepreneurs. When the event concludes, Elizabeth hands me the foundation's first annual report. 3 success stories already, she says. And applications coming in weekly. I flip through pages showcasing women standing proudly in their new businesses. A bakery, a floral design studio, an event planning agency in Boston. When family shows you who they are, believe them and then build the life you deserve, I say quietly. Elizabeth smiles. That should be on the foundation letterhead. As we gather our things to leave, my father approaches alone. Your grandmother would be proud, he says awkwardly. She always believed in your cooking. I studied him for a moment. She taught me more than recipes, I replied. She taught me that talent deserves respect. He nods once, then turns away. Outside, the December snow falls gently on the city. Elizabeth loops her arm through mine as we walk toward the waiting car. Next year's gala will be even bigger, she says. With even more success stories to celebrate, I add. The city lights shimmer through snowflakes, and for the first time in my life, Christmas holds no dread, only possibility.